Well, I think it's. I've done some short films before, mainly adaptations of literature. And this was the first time I really sat down and I started to think about what I wanted to talk about. And I think you go to safe places. And I remember as a child, all these characters were really close to me. You know, I had this gossip I've been hearing since I was a child. You know, these women talking about each other, like the Pituca character, my aunties playing cards. Many of the characters that are there were really close to me during all my life. And I also really like women's cinema, such as like Fassbinder, Todd Haynes, Cassavetes. I always like men directing these amazing actresses. And I said, maybe I have to start from there and try to find my own path. And especially going close to people I knew, and I think sometimes when you know people, it's a lot easier to create characters that are honest and believable. And I think I also did have a big help of the actresses themselves, that they were really helpful on the way they approach the script and on the way they work with me in rehearsals and in making the script and the dialogue sounds more organic. Because this is a film where dialogues are organic, but they don't say what is happening. You have another way of storytelling.
It's very economic. I think there's a lot unsaid in this film. Tell me more about the casting process, because astonishingly, a lot of your actors have not been seen on screen before, is that right?
Yeah, and the main actress, Anna Brun, this is her first film. She has done some theater before, about 15 years ago. And a friend of mine read the script, and straight away he said her other name, because she's not named Anna Brun in real life. Her name is Patricia Bente. Okay. She's an intellectual rights lawyer. And it was really crazy, because that was like when I wrote the very first draft. He said, maybe it's her, you know? And I think when you're not a professional actor or a trained actor, let's say, you bring to you bring to the set a lot of your own life and your own experiences. And I thought that she brought a lot of her. I mean, when we premiered the film in Berlin, I remember critics asking me or talking about the scene where she first came into prison to visit Chiquita, because they said that's like a acting class. Yeah. And she's a person who had her husband was a political prisoner, so she has gone through something similar. I didn't think of this when I was making the script, but I think what they bring to the set is their own life, their own experiences, and in that sense, I think it's really helpful for me as a director to have people that come with a very rich experience, and I felt that all the actresses were in a moment in their life where they wanted something to happen to them. They were looking for this opportunity. In the case of Chiquita, who's Margarita Irún, she's a very well-trained theater actress. She played all the Lorca main characters and stuff. She has done some, I think, 1 or 2 cinema pieces. And then Anna Ivanova, who plays Angie, she has done some short film with students, and this is her first. I think she had done some supportive as well in some feature film, but we don't have a big industry in Paraguay, so this was, for all of us, a great opportunity.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Paraguay. I mean, congratulations for being the first film I've seen from Paraguay in a long time that's made it over here, and it's doing very well. But I'm very interested to talk to you a little bit about the culture in Paraguay and the response you have had there to the content of this film. Can you talk a bit more to that?
We had a long period of darkness during our dictatorship, that we didn't have any films coming out of Paraguay. And even when I was making short films, I said maybe I only have to make short films. You know, this is a country without a film institute or without a funding. It was very difficult to think of a feature film. But then it came, and it was for me an urgency to make this film. And we made it. We went to Berlin, and it was the first Paraguayan filming competition. They got some recognition. So we were very well received by the press. I mean, the press helped us a lot, went with us to Berlin. It was very well received in Paraguay. I mean, the actresses, when they got back at the airport, it was like football players. But then as soon as people realized, what is the film about? You know, they said, oh my God, this is not what we want. Some people, Paraguay, there is some Paraguayan friends here, so they know. It's a very extremely conservative society. So we did have a very good reception of probably the more open-minded people. But then at Parliament, we received a recognition from the Senate, and it was a bit awkward because all the conservatives were not in the room when we were to receive this recognition, and one of them from a Liberal Party, when Anna Brun was talking, the main actress, she was yelling, you know, like, you lesbian, get out of here, you will ask us to get married next. So that made me realize how important was, in a way, what we were doing for the country to create a debate, but also it made me realize the country we live in, you know. It was really a person that cannot tell the difference between an actor and an actual person is really a character, and a person is something that you wouldn't think that person will be sat in Senate.
Yeah, that's quite disturbing, actually, isn't it? The fantasy, but very interesting. Well, I mean, it must have been quite an endeavour to get this film financed and made. Can you talk to us a little bit about that process?
Yeah, I usually complain about Britain because Britain doesn't have a strong relationship with Latin America. You know, you have
Right.
a lot of other countries to take care of in a way, or to relate to. And I really wanted, because I spent a lot of time here, I went to school here, and I always thought maybe I could do something closer to this country. But we had to do it internationally because we couldn't have the finance in Paraguay. So what we did is we applied to funds in Germany,
Right.
France, Norway, Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. And what you basically do when you come from a country like Paraguay, I don't know if there are filmmakers here that know this system, you write a script, you find people that is passionate about the script in other countries, producers, they apply to their fundings, and then you work together and they own the film in their territory, and you share the world, but it is the world rights, but it is the only way we can make films from Paraguay. And sometimes I'm worried that in Latin America we tend to have international fundings deciding the kind of films we do. And that could be sad, you know? So we really are, I believe we should work around making really the stories we want to tell. Because that's always better for a country to really protect the stories you feel you want to tell. Sometimes exotism sells a lot more, or poverty, or other things like that, but I think that's also changing, and I'm happy about that.
That's good. Yeah, you mentioned what sells, and I mean, a lot of the times when there's an LGBT story, there's a lot of sex in a film, but this seems to be a little bit more kind of restrained in that respect. Was that a conscious decision?
Yeah, because it has to do with the country I come from. I mean, Paraguay is a country where things are not said. I mean, everything is fine as long as you don't put it in words, in a way. And I also felt that the Chiquita and Chela, the main protagonists of the film, they're from a generation that they will be in a bit of homophobic lesbians, you know? There'll be people that, even in the film, there is a scene when they come back from the party with the car. One, they're talking about another girl, and they say, oh, the one that looks like a boy, you know? With a bit of Guarani language we use there, mitaí, like que parece un mitaí, we say in Spanish. So I think it's about people that is never comfortable in their own skin. And I thought that was important to make the film organic to this generation that have always lived with this relationship of kind of protection, repression. Is all the time that I have that feeling in my mind that we had a dictatorship until 1989, and we feel the dictator left, so all of a sudden we became free. And it's not like that. I mean, repression stays in the universities, in the schools, in the families, in the relationships. I think it's a country that needs a lot of, to reflect a lot upon what's happening in order to be able to really create a new society.
You spoke a little bit about the actresses giving you some inspiration in terms of the dialogue. Can you talk about the rehearsal process? Did you have much of that?
Yeah, we had much of that because I was happy that we don't belong to the so-called industry, so we don't count like, okay, you come this time. I mean, I talked to the actresses, I said, we all want to make a good film, when can you come to rehearse? And we decide days and times, and we made a process of rehearsal, and through rehearsals, what I discovered is also the way the film ended up being shot. Because I feel in cinema today, the actors are very exposed sometimes, because you put the camera, say this, and then put the camera, say that, and do this and do that, and they don't have this lovely reality of real life that theater still have. That is that you can move, and you can feel time, and you can feel a process of time and space as well. So in the rehearsing process, I was always shooting, and I always felt it was beautiful after the first minute that they were on screen. It was always they start feeling comfortable. So we did a lot of that during the process of of making the film in order to make them feel comfortable, and also to make this the honesty of the acting, I think, comes from trying to make them just feel comfortable, not making the technical aspect a priority or the time a priority. Sometimes we did 7 takes, sometimes we did 20 takes or 25.
And how scripted were the sort of physical sides of the scenes? I really love the smoking scene. I mean, was that any improvisation in that? Was that very much planned out?
It was planned, of course. The actresses, I think Anna Ivanova has this thing that she brings into that scene something special. I think it's not an easy scene. I was really worried, but it came out as very natural with them also. I didn't want them to be comfortable with each other, so during the rehearsal process, I didn't want them to be friends. You know, I wanted them to work really separate, and I would tell Anna Ivanova, don't go out for a meal with her, don't be friends, because I think they had to still feel through the process of the film this kind of don't feel very comfortable. Otherwise, awkwardness maybe is the word. They wouldn't. So I tried to keep that during the process because I knew they were working with their own feelings and their own experience, not with much techniques. And Anna Brun, during the process, she taught me something that I didn't know before, because she wanted to work, when she came on set, she wanted to know what was exactly her feeling about each person. So for example, she was kind of liking you, kind of hating him, kind of indifferent to him. So she wanted to know that because she spoke so little that she needed to position herself and move herself around the room with strong feelings to each person in that room. So that was the way I worked with her. And then with Chiquita it was different because she had a lot of experience, so of course we had to reach a point when she was completely comfortable with her character and everything. And with Anna Ivanova it was a lot of improvisation because she manages her body and her dialogue very well. So on set I many times changed completely her dialogue in order to make her elaborate in her head and be really who we wanted her to be.
That's fascinating. So a very individual approach for each of the actors. Yeah, very interesting.
But last July, it was approved, our first cinema law. So we are excited to be able to regulate that law, have a film institute, regular funding. So probably you'll be able to see more of Paraguay in the near future in London and everywhere else.
That's excellent news. Very
Thank
good.
you very much.